Please note that the views expressed are those of the host or guest and are not necessarily shared by Vertex. All participants have been compensated by Vertex. This podcast is only intended for U.S. audiences and for educational purposes. It is not intended to replace discussions with your healthcare provider.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Walking with Warriors podcast, brought to you by Vertex Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, where we take a look at the sickle cell disease caregiver experience through our eyes. I'm Elle.
And I'm Patrice. On today's episode, we'll be talking with a male caregiver about his caregiving journey and finding his support network. Remember, everyone's experience with sickle cell disease or SCD is different, so it's important to talk to a doctor before making any changes to your routine.
Joining us today is David, a father and sickle cell disease warrior. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Good evening, ladies, and thank you for having me.
So, David, we are excited to have you here with us today. We've been looking forward to this conversation. You are a duo all by yourself. You're a warrior and a caregiver. So
Yes.
There aren't very many people that can say that. And so you have a really different and great perspective, we think, for you to bring to us today. So will you tell us about your sickle cell journey? You can start with yourself as a warrior and then how you became a caregiver if you'd like, but tell us about your journey.
Yes, so I'm 42 years old. I grew up at a time where infant testing was not done at that time. So my family didn't find out that I carried sickle cell until I was 2 years old. So, they was wondering like, well, why is he going through all these situations where he's crying? Why is he saying he's in pain? And we really don't have any answers. So, of course, after going through tests, it was later revealed that I had sickle cell disease. So growing up, I went through many challenges dealing with sickle cell. I was even in one hospital for so long that I was featured in one of their commercials. Now, this was many years ago, but these are things I recall from those times. And I even went from multiple hospitals because, we was trying to make sure that I had the best care that was needed for a person with sickle cell disease.
That's very heavy that you had to experience that.
But I'm thankful. I'm thankful because, experiencing what I went through, one, it helped me with my religion.
Mm-hmm.
But two, it also helped me to understand what it means to really focus on sickle cell disease and become an advocate. We found out that my wife was a carrier of sickle cell disease, so she has the trait.
Okay.
So in my family, it's a family of 5 where there's 4 people with sickle cell disease and then my wife who has the trait.
Okay.
So we didn't find out that she was a carrier until she was pregnant with my daughter. So of course, during that time, they told us, you had options. You can allow us to do genetic counseling where we'll test the amniotic fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I said was, if the child does have sickle cell disease, we're going to work with it.
Okay.
So, of course, when my daughter was born, they did the new infant
Newborn screening.
newborn screening. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They did the newborn screening, and of course, it came back that she did have sickle cell. And I told my wife, I said, I understand that she does have sickle cell, but if ever she's in the hospital, I'm going to be right there with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be with her through anything she's going through. She needs somebody to ask those questions that she's not going to ask. She needs somebody to advocate for her. So I'm there.
It sounds like you and your wife have been together for a while.
Yes.
And
Ninth grade.
oh, wow, that's wonderful. And
Thank you.
have, this beautiful relationship established. And then all of a sudden you have not one, not two, but 3 children with this disorder.
Yes.
How did that affect your relationship?
If anything, it really drew us closer.
Okay.
Now, of course, we was already close because we was married.
Yeah.
We have a good marriage.
Yeah.
We just celebrated 20 years married.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it made my wife have a desire to learn more about sickle cell disease.
Yes.
And while she was learning, of course, I was learning more about it myself.
Yeah.
So my wife is my caregiver.
Now, I'm sure over the years that you've been with your wife and taking care of your kids, you've had to have some really difficult conversations where you as a family have talked about sickle cell disease. As a family, how are you all approaching the conversation as a whole?
Well, if I can just go directly to parent to child,
Sure.
we want our children to understand that, yes, you do have this disease. However, don't be ashamed of it.
Okay.
And as well, you need to let people know, hey, I have this disease. Especially now with my older children, having jobs and being further along in school. Well, my daughter just graduated. But, you need to let your teachers know,
Yes.
let your employers know.
Right.
Because if you're slacking or if you're showing signs of this disease affecting you,
Yes.
you need to be able to let them know this is the reason why.
So with all of these things on your shoulders, how do you find the strength? How do you find the resolve in this? And really courage to move on and to keep going?
My faith in God is what gives me the strength that I need and the courage that I need to continue on.
Mm-hmm.
But also having a family that supports me.
Sure.
Having my wife as my caregiver is a big thing to me.
Even though I was the one that was doing the primary caregiving, if my son went into the hospital, he was there. My husband was there, sitting by his bedside, talking to the doctors, making sure he had what he needed, making sure he was being expressive and communicating what he needed to communicate. And even now, we are, like you, we're a strong family of faith. And if something happens with my son, he actually will go to him first and say, let's have prayer or whatever it is. And then he comes to me. He's like,
okay,
what do you think we should do? So he plays a very, very large role in his caregiving still. We always say that we used to say I'm his primary. Now we just say I'm a caregiver because my husband plays a very, very large role.
When I think about the role that my husband plays in our daughter's caregiving experience, I think it's shifted over time because as parents, some of us are good at going to the doctor and listening and interpreting those words. And for years, that was me. So I had to kind of take a step back so that my husband could show up more on that side because I want him to have an intimate relationship where he's able to partner with her healthcare team if something were to take place. And so the more advocacy I do, the more I've needed my husband to go to doctor's appointments and talk to teachers and speak up.
My wife just also became a community health worker. So yes, she's involved, learning a lot about sickle cell disease, learning more than what she knew about, times where I got sick. So it's really drawing us closer to each other.
Yes.
You talk about you and your wife and leaning on each other and being together a long time. My husband and I have been together over 20 years, and we've had to learn how to lean on each other, just like you spoke of.
My wife is the type of person who, she's not just going to take, anything a doctor says and just run with it.
Yes.
She's going to ask questions. She's going to make sure that the doctors are doing what they're supposed to be doing to make sure that we're getting the treatment that we need. So it's really, again, brought us closer and helped us to understand more about this disease.
The way he shows up doesn't look the same way I show up, but I appreciate it. He's a silent tree. That's how I like to think of him, because he's steady, he's steadfast, he knows what's good. He doesn't say a whole lot of words.
Yeah.
I'm the talker in the family. But my daughter, she can hold on to her tree. And so sometimes him just being that body in the room without any words makes all the difference.
I can attest to that, because just sometimes my husband can just walk into the room if my son's not feeling well, if he's at home or if he's at the hospital, and the energy will shift for him, and things just seem to be a little better. And I think, like you said, parenting is about all those things that you mentioned. And when you add caregiver to that, I think all parents are caregivers, but when you add a SCD caregiver to that parenting list, then you just take that whole list and you add with empathy, you add an open heart, you add an ear,
Yes. And I think all dads have a different way of approaching it. And I know my husband is a problem solver. And so when he is around sickle cell, sometimes there are problems that arise that he can't solve.
Yes.
And that's very difficult. And so it has caused him to mature and grow in different ways that he never thought he needed to, because he's had to realize there are some things in life you can't control. And we've had to trust each other. Having a strong support system is very important.
Yeah.
And it's something we always talk about. And I think Patrice and I are both moms. We're both women.
Yeah.
For you as a male, do you have other male caregivers that you can connect with?
So I was on a men's panel for MSCDA back in June. And I met a young man when I was at that panel. Now, fast forward to a few weeks ago, we were in Orlando, and he actually came to the sickle cell conference that was going on down there. And he introduced me to a whole lot of other young men, and they have a sickle cell support group for men.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, we meet up every other Tuesday night, and I mean it's on like Zoom.
Yes.
So we're able to talk, to discuss what's going on, any experiences that we're having.
I have done for so long so much to encourage my son to be a part of a group like that, some type of support group, if it was not necessarily just men, but maybe young adult or something like that. And it took him a very long time to say yes. It took him a long time to move on it. I've been talking about this forever. And it's just been a couple of years now that he's been a part of something like that. How are you encouraging your sons, or are you encouraging them to do the same?
I have to be honest. I'm like your son. At one point, my wife was telling me for years, first of all, you need to switch your hospital, switch your doctor, but also you need to get with, some of these support groups for sickle cell.
Yeah.
Because this may help you out, especially with your mental.
Yes.
Because there may be somebody that you can talk to that's going through the same things that you're going through. So yes, I'm part of this support group now with the men. I have not brought my two boys onto it yet, but I have started, putting things into their minds and say, look, here's some things that you may want to do. Yeah. And it kind of worked out because my oldest son, he did a project for school where he explained, sickle cell disease. And I had to give him so much credit because, when I'm sitting back thinking that, oh, he ain't listening to nothing that we're saying. But when he was explaining sickle cell to his friends and classmates, I mean, he was spitting it out. Yes. And they were, they were taking it in like, give us more, give us more. And I was happy because, he is listening.
Yes.
And, I'm letting him know that, getting with these support groups, you'll be able to find these things out as well.
Yeah.
But also, I want to be able to find a support group, that's age appropriate.
Yes.
Right.
Just because, he's a teenager.
Right.
And my youngest, he's not a teenager yet.
Yeah.
So it may be a little difficult for the youngest one, but I'm quite sure we can find one for my oldest son.
I am really thinking about what you said about being a caregiver, and I'm wondering if there was a new male caregiver who was listening, what piece of advice would you give them?
The first thing I would say is listen, but don't make assumptions. Where you may be feeling that this child, they're not going through anything. No, ask those questions. Find out, hey, are you experiencing this? Find out as much information as you can. And we know that children are not going to be forthcoming. They're not going to always answer the questions, but it's fine because I'm going to keep on digging until you tell me the truth about how you're feeling. And if it's something that's sickle cell related or anything, especially if it's something that I can help you with, I'm going to give you the help that you need.
That's awesome.
We thank you so much for being with us today. We, as I mentioned earlier, we were excited for you to join us. And now I know who you are. I know your story. I just applaud you. You are a wonderful spouse, wonderful dad, sound like a wonderful caregiver. And so we thank you for sharing your story today. I thank you for being a light in this community and just continuing the care that you give. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us. If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. You can find all episodes on the Walking with Warriors podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and walkingwithwarriors.com.
Tune in next time for an episode about the impact of mentorship and positive role models for young men with sickle cell disease. In the meantime, you can read about a caregiver's journey and his commitment to the community on walkingwithwarriors.com.